Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Cade Museum for this June 15th meeting of the Rotary Club of Gainesville. Please silence your cell phones as we prepare for the start of our meeting today. And if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, please register your registration by sending us an email, info@rotarygainesville.org, info@rotarygainesville.org. We begin our meeting, as we do each and every week, with the unmatched talents of Pete Enwall for three things: a joke, what else, Pete? A song, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Here's Pete Enwall, everybody.
Gee, I'm going to miss that. Well, I'll tell you. Okay, so as I said last week, I thought I'd burden you with some impressions for the last three sessions of our year. And so today is John Kennedy. Everybody remember John Kennedy? Who doesn't remember John Kennedy? Okay. So let me start. Mr. President, I'm the house nurse. The children are becoming confused about the toys in the upstairs bath. Could you straighten us out? Would you silence your cell phones, please? Well, let me say this about that. The following toys have been appropriated for tub use: 18 PT boats, 2 Yogi Bear beach balls, 2 Howdy Doody plastic bouncing clowns, a ball of silly putty, and a rubber swan. Now, let me make a judgment about that and about the disbursement of these items. 9 of the PT boats, 1 of the Yogi Bear bouncing balls, 1 of the Howdy Doody plastic clowns belong to Caroline. 9 of the PT boats, 1 of the Yogi Bear bouncing balls, and 1 of the Howdy Doody plastic clowns belong to John. The rubber swan is mine. Okay, you can laugh now. And we're going to sing God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love, and beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete. Did you join that comedy group yet? The Fellowship, Rotary? No, not yet? Okay. Someone get him the contact information. I just heard from Matthew that your application is pending. They're reviewing some of your previous material. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the invocation offered today by Lori Vidal.
Let's join our hearts as we pray. Let's pray. The psalmist in Hebrew poetry encourages us with these words: I will lift up my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. As we settle into this beautiful room with such an encouraging spirit around us of creativity and positivity towards life, we do ask you to encourage our spirits today. We look to you for strength and guidance as we look to the future and the spreading spirit of life opening up throughout our nation. Give us wisdom to know how to adjust to the new realities we will be facing, especially as it impacts our commitments here to Rotary. You have sustained us through this pandemic, and we ask you to continue to help us move powerfully into the future you have for each one of us individually and as a group, I pray in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. You may be seated unless you are a visiting Rotarian or a member of ours today who has a guest. Anyone with a guest today? Okay. Don Bugos has the wireless microphone to bring to you. Please give us your name and your guest's name. Introduce them, please.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Owen. I'm a visiting Rotarian from Lake Butler. Nice to meet you all.
Lowell Chesbrough. I was a member of this club for some 40 years. And let's see, March of 2016, I walked up to the podium at the and gave Charlie Page two $20 bills from our 40th anniversary. I won't give you 45 today, though. I am currently president of the Gilchrist County Rotary Club. We are a little unusual, I think, in that we have actually grown during the pandemic. I've gone up, my membership this year has gone up about 10%, which I'm getting accolades for. I don't think I deserve them, but I'm getting them. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I am Derek Roberts. I hail from parts out west. I was a previous club president in Oro Valley. I have just moved to Gainesville, back to Florida. This is where I grew up. And I am hoping that these guys will allow me to become a member of this club. So I work just a few blocks away, so I can walk here, eat, and have a good time. So thank you.
We had one more person standing up. Go ahead and stand up. Visiting Rotarian Harvey Baxter, everybody. Are you celebrating since Vanderbilt's in the College World Series? Is that what it is? Go. Okay, folks, it's a special day. Every day is special, but we've made it more special today for you because we have for you, well, I don't. We have a poem from John Gregory. Nice hat, John. Come on up.
This one is called Pop's Lionheart. You know, Sunday's going to be Father's Day. I don't know. All of you know that. All right, whatever. Shank will keep the attitude in view. Jason has a lion's heart. It's true. But the only thing is, Jank and Shank faces a lifetime ban from the local zoo. Matthew's wife got so angry when she found all the letters then that Brady had led, and hastily wife said, "I'll never play Scrabble with you again." A couple's marriage, they seem devout. Chad's been in love with the same woman, no doubt. For 50 years, King gives out 3 cheers. My wife will hurt me if she finds out. The wife looked through the window dim. It was snowing, freezing to the skin. If it gets any worse, bet Dad will get forced to go ahead and let her in. Happy Father's Day.
Okay. Always an adventure, right? We have one announcement for you today. So please welcome to our podium, Greg Young.
Yep. Thank you. I need that lower mic. Good afternoon, everyone. So I have some exciting news. We are planning our first live in-person in-house membership for the Rotary Club of Gainesville. We'll be hosting a fun and fellowship at the Matheson History Museum on Thursday, June 24th. We will gather beginning around 6 p.m. Time may change on that. I've got to speak with our committee there, but we're planning 6 at this point. Light hors d'oeuvres and beverages will be served. The Matheson's interim director, Caitlin Hoff-Mahoney, will provide a brief program and then lead us on a tour of the historic buildings on the property. Please plan to join us for our first indoor Fun and Fellowship since 2019. And actually, I have 2 announcements. We had our board meeting last night, and we had our outgoing board members, which are still serving, and our incoming board members, which will be serving starting in July. Well, at last night's meeting, there was a proclamation that was voted on, and I am going to read that to you now. And I'd also like to ask every board member that was either incoming or is current to please come up and join me. I know I looked around. There's a lot of you here today. Just lining up like this. Yes. Thank you. Thanks. And you see we have a lot of incoming people, and we have some outgoing board members. And so this is some of the club leadership, and I think they deserve a round of applause for their service to the club. Thank you, Jason. Perfect. So the proclamation reads, proclamation honoring Matthew E. Brady for his service to the Rotary Club of Gainesville. This is me speaking. As we all know, it's been a very challenging year, and we all know that he stepped up to the plate. 1, whereas Matthew Brady has been an outstanding member of the Rotary Club of Gainesville over 7 years, and whereas Matthew Brady has served in many positions of leadership in our club, and whereas Matthew Brady has served as Feastmaster of our annual Wild Game Feast in 2019, and whereas during the 2020-2021 Rotary year, the entire world was affected by a pandemic, and whereas Matthew Brady served the Rotary Club of Gainesville with distinction as president during the worldwide pandemic, and whereas Matthew Brady was responsible for the successful transition from an in-person club to a hybrid club using Zoom, as well as leading our club in its change of meeting in a new location, wonderful new location, I might add. And whereas Matthew Brady's inspiring, passionate, effective leadership has enhanced our club. And whereas Matthew Brady's leadership as president of the Rotary Club of Gainesville, our club has continued its long tradition of service to our community. And whereas under Matthew Brady's leadership as president of the Rotary Club of Gainesville, our club continued its tradition of fellowship events. Whereas Matthew Brady has been an exemplary president, and the board voted on this last night. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Rotary Club of Gainesville that we hereby recognize, congratulate, and thank Matthew E. Brady for his outstanding commitment and service to our club, and recognize him as the perfect pandemic president. And he says whenever he hears PPP as a banker, he gets nervous. So approved by unanimous vote of the Board of Directors, Club of Gainesville, this 14th day of June, 2021, last night. And I'd like to present this to Matthew Brady. We will have a more appropriate version of this at a later date. So. Here's a piece of paper. Come on here, man. Yeah, on my right, on my right.
I don't know where he went. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with his remarks at the meeting today, your president, Matthew Brady.
Tommy went to sit down. That wasn't any easier that time than it was last night. So I appreciate such kind words. And I said this the other week. It is an amazing honor to serve an amazing group of people here. And that's an amazing board that's served and going to serve. And it's just a tremendous honor to be here. And as Rotarians, we should always, when our name is called, be ready to answer that call and do what we can for our club and our community, and just be ready for that opportunity because it will come. It was a great board meeting last night that we were able to, talk about we're fellowship, some business, and a reflection on this past year. And I am excited for that new board because we're at a point where I look around and I feel like it's Easter Sunday. We're about to pull in some chairs. The pews are full and we need to, get it. This is awesome. This is incredible. And we're continuing to, last week I had a message from a member, the spouse of a member, just saying, thank you for continuing the Zoom because someone could not be here. And it meant the world to them that they could still look around and see each of you and be engaged from afar. So those things are going to continue to be there, but we continue to fill up this room in this beautiful place, and it's awesome. I talked about last week how much I know David Gracie has been preparing for this year, and I just going to take presidential privilege and did not get his approval, so he's going to surprise me with some stuff, okay? But during this past year of preparation, I had the blessing of going to Pets and being around everybody. He spent many weekends on the computer and doing Pets training from afar and not having that personal engagement. But, also this past year of preparation, he's been taking the CIMA course, in which he finished and passed his exam last week. And so not only has he been preparing for a new Rotary year, but achieved a highly respected Certified Investment Management Analyst designation. Congratulations, David. Well done. Today's speaker we'll get to here in just a minute, but when we talk about that board transition, what a timely opportunity to hear from a very experienced, very seasoned, very engaged Rotarian to talk about the future of Rotary, what's next, and what we go forward. So I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of, Rotary International Conference virtual has been taking place the past several days, continues through tomorrow. 2022 will be back live. It's planned, of course, barring any other difficulties or any changes, but it'll be in Houston, Texas in June 2022. And I'll send out an email with all those details. But if you pre-register, there's a $50 discount if you pre-register by tomorrow. So without further ado, I am going to hand the mic back over to Jenny Van Hart via Zoom to introduce today's speaker via Zoom.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to keep it super quick because I know Jeffrey has a lot to say. He is a past Rotary International Director, 2018-2020. He feeds his Rotary habit by being a broker, a realtor, and a senior advisor. He has won a stack of awards. He has been on boards left, right, and center. And a few weeks ago, he jumped out of a plane to raise money and awareness for the End Polio Now campaign. Jeffrey, you're on, man.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And can you all hear me? Somebody shake your head if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, we had an amazing rehearsal this morning with your tech person at 8 o'clock, where I have a little studio set up in my house because I do about 15 of these a week. Which is better than when the pandemic started, when we were all doing about 6 or 7 a day. But when I joined your meeting, it would not allow me to use my green screen. So you're in my living room. So the rehearsal, whoever went through that rehearsal with me this morning, thank you for all of your help. Don't know why it didn't all work out with the green screen today. It's great to be with you here at the Rotary Club of Gainesville today. And let me first just thank you for all of the club leadership that was just introduced, for your club president, incoming and outgoing, and to each of you for having survived the past year, which has been a challenging year for all of us and for our organization. Many of us have lost friends and family members due to COVID. Many of our businesses were affected. Many of our local economies were affected. And certainly our goal, especially in North America, was not to let Rotary go dark. And clearly in Gainesville, you did not. And so thank you on behalf of Rotary International and all of us at World Headquarters in Evanston for all that you've done to keep Rotary alive in your area. It's great to be here with you. Certainly the platform that we're on, this virtual platform that is allowing me in Philadelphia to be with you in Gainesville, was the silver lining of the pandemic for our organization. We would not have gotten to this level of virtual connectivity for 5 years, if even then. But we are there now. And I had the privilege of chairing the Rotary International Pandemic Response Task Force last year. It was a global task force. We started in March. The board charged us with taking a look at virtual connectivity and making recommendations to the board and the trustees for ways to optimize virtual connectivity as we came out of the pandemic. The fear was that once we were able to be back in person, that we would simply slide back to the way we used to do business. And that would be wrong. Virtual connectivity is not the way that we can operate 100% going forward, but it certainly has taught us some lessons. And we have charged the board, brought back to them many recommendations, which they're now considering. Many have already been implemented so that we can optimize virtual connectivity going forward for the good of the organization, the efficiency of the organization, and the effectiveness of the organization, whether it's at the club level, the district level, the zone level, or out of our world headquarters in Evanston. And to give you an example of that, we've all been grounded since last March. All of the senior leadership have been grounded. None of us are traveling anywhere. All staff have been grounded. And certainly there's some cost savings with that. We've learned how to train club presidents virtually and online. We've learned how to train governors-elect virtually and online, both in a synchronous and an asynchronous mode. And I've always maintained if I can get a master's degree in business administration online, I can certainly learn how to be a club president or a governor online. And yet, there is value to the in-person meetings that we were all used to. In-person meetings are in our DNA. Fellowship is in our DNA as Rotarians. And so our charge to the board was to find that sweet spot. I think that we should continue much of our training, which can be done online in a synchronous and an asynchronous mode. We should continue with that. Should we do away with an in-person gathering of presidents-elect, either in a district or a multi-district format? No. Should we get rid of a gathering of governors-elect from paired zones across the world? No. But we should reimagine those in-person events. Reimagine them. Figure out what we can do in person that can take the place of the training that we're now doing online, that can add value to the organization, to the people who are participating as leadership in the organization. So that's what we're working to do. The international convention right now in Taiwan is happening virtually. Hopefully we'll all be in person in Houston next year. But we've learned a lot, and it is the silver lining for our organization. And so I congratulate you on all that you've done to stay operational virtually, and now in what we call a VIP, a virtual in-person mode. We used to call it a hybrid meeting. That doesn't translate well into our 8 Rotary languages, so it's a virtual in-person meeting. And so it's nice to see all of you folks at the Cade Museum. I'm sure there are plenty of others who are joining in via Zoom. And we are encouraging clubs to continue with a virtual in-person format, even once we can all meet in person safely again. Because no matter what, there are people who, going forward, will not be able to meet with you at lunch on Tuesdays and will want to join with you in a virtual manner. So find that sweet spot and see if we can work that out going forward. The other thing that this virtual connectivity has taught us is that we have the opportunity for people to join our meetings who are not Rotarians. We have now started speaking to an outward audience as well as an inward audience. Most of our meetings, most of our events, we always speak to ourselves. Going forward, if we want to thrive going forward, We need to do a better job of learning how to include people that are outside of Rotary into our events and into our meetings and speak to them as well as to the Rotarians who are gathered there. And that has to do with our public awareness, our public understanding. Many people still, we know that the studies that we've done, the awareness of Rotary is higher, but the understanding of Rotary is still not where we need it to be. And that's all of our duty, all of our task is to allow for a better understanding and a better awareness of Rotary. It's one of the 4 pillars of our action plan. As chair of the RI Communications Committee globally, with our 73 regional magazines, with Rotary Magazine, the Communications Committee with an incredible staff in Evanston. We are tasked with all of the messaging, all of the narrative for our organization, all of the brand compliance for our organization, and everything that we do. And so that public understanding and public awareness is very high. It's why I'm sorry that I can't have my Rotary background behind me, and that you're looking at my living room instead of a Rotary background, because when I speak at different places, I'm never sure if there are non-Rotarians in the audience, and I like to have that Rotary branding behind me. For whatever reason, this setup would not allow me to do that. I would encourage you to think about the backgrounds that you use when you're at Rotary meetings. We have provided many virtual backgrounds for you. You can find them at the Brand Center at Rotary.org and use them when you're speaking at Rotary events, or even attending Rotary events, or even a non-Rotary event. Don't be afraid to have a Rotary background up. I think I've done over 500 or 600 of these things, maybe even more, I don't know, over the past year. And I now have the equivalent of a master's degree in the do's and don'ts of interior design. I've been in more living rooms, more kitchens, more dining rooms than you can shake a stick at. Of course, no one on this call, all of your backgrounds and all of your living rooms look superb. So once again, thank you for all that you do in Gainesville. I want to give you some information about our #1 external challenge as an organization. It's polio. It's our 3-decade-long effort to eradicate polio from the planet, and I have some great news for you. We have 2 remaining polio endemic countries, as you know, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Last year at this time, we had a little over 156 year to date from January 1 till now cases in Pakistan and Afghanistan. You know that last year the continent of Africa was certified polio free, which was a great milestone for us. This year, so far since January 1, we have had 2 cases of polio globally, 1 in Pakistan, 1 in Afghanistan. That's huge. And additionally, we have 56 environmental testing sites in Pakistan. Those are sewage sites, raw sewage sites, where we test for the wild polio virus. And from January 1 until now, we have had no cases, no instances of wild polio virus in any one of the 56 environmental testing sites in Pakistan. That's huge. And so with that, I'll just encourage you between now and 30 June, if you personally have not made a gift, no matter how large it is, it doesn't matter how large or small it is, or if your club has not made a gift to polio through the Rotary Foundation Polio Plus, I would encourage you to think about that. Now is not the time for us to take our foot off the pedal. And you know that we need to raise $50 million every year in order to unlock the 2-to-1 challenge from the Gates Foundation. We need that $100 million from the Gates Foundation. We can only get that if we raise $50 million. And so I know we've been saying this close forever. I don't say this close anymore, but we're almost there. And we just need to stay vigilant. We need to stay coordinated in our efforts, and we need to keep our promise to the children of the world to eradicate polio from the planet. What a great day that will be for all of us. And I'm hoping we have a little time for questions, and so if you have any other questions about polio, we can get to those at the end. Our #1 internal challenge as an organization, and if I ask someone from the audience to just shout it out, very likely someone would say membership, and it's true. It's our number one internal challenge as an organization. We have been stuck at 1.2 million participants, 1.2 million members for 2 decades. Over the past 10 years, we've brought 1.2 million new members into our organization, and we've lost 1.2 million members from our organization. We're really good at the getting. We're not very good at the keeping. That speaks to retention. And the fact is that North America has been on a slide of losing membership for the past 15 years. And I'm going to sound the alarm to you. I'm going to ring the alarm bell to you. And if you think it is not your problem in your club, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. It's all of our problem in all of our clubs for every Rotarian. Because if we are unable to solve this, if we are unable to stop the downward spiral of membership in North America, in 10 years, we will not be relevant in North America. And that would be a shame because it's preventable. But it's only preventable if each of us, if all of us are intentional about growing Rotary. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I mean, I think you have over 200 members. I think Gainesville has 4 different Rotary clubs. I'm not sure how large or small the other clubs are. I'm not sure what day of the week they meet on or if they meet at breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But many of us who are on the Grow Rotary Task Force believe that the solution to the membership crisis in North America is not continuing to try to add members to our existing clubs. We've been trying that for over 15 years, and it just hasn't solved the problem. We need new and innovative club models, new methods for people to access us, new ingress points for people to access us, not just young people, people of all ages, people that no matter what will never be able to attend a breakfast meeting, a lunch meeting, or a dinner meeting. And we've now created some of those new methods. And my daughter, Jess, who's 29 years old, is a prime example. She came to me about 6 weeks ago, sat on my deck for a conversation. She's been immersed in Rotary her entire life, but she never had a way to access us. Never was she going to be able to join a breakfast, lunch, or dinner club because of the type of work she does. And she said, but Dad, I want to be a Rotarian. How can we figure this out? Well, it turns out in my district, they were starting a cause-based club. It's an eco club. And so it's a lot of people that have concerns about the environment or climate or conservation. And that's been her entire 10-year professional career. And so she will be a charter member of the District 7450 Eco Club, which will be chartered before 30 June. And so what does that mean? It means that there's one person who's able to become a Rotarian because we gave them a shoe size that fits their foot. And that's what we need. We need more shoe sizes. And whether it's a satellite club, a passport club, a cause-based club, or different methods or models of ingress or access that we haven't even invented yet, we need that. And if you sit there in your chair or in your living room or dining room and say to me, well, but that's not a real Rotarian, I'm going to tell you that's hogwash. I'm going to tell you that we've got to get off of this 1.2 million member stall point that we've been in, because in the next decade, we need 3 to 4 to 5 million participants in our organization. We can't be content to be stuck at 1.2 million members. And if you say to me, well, we're doing pretty good in Gainesville, we've got a couple hundred members and life is good. A lot of clubs are out of existence now that once held that. There are clubs of 50 that are now 2. There are clubs of 100 that are now 40. And so no one is immune from the changes in our culture, the changes in our society that have made some of our traditional club models the foundation of where we've gotten to. We need to honor our past, but we need to retool for the future. We can no longer just survive. We need to figure out ways to thrive. And one of the ways that we can thrive is with more hands on deck, with more innovative ways for people to join with us and be a part of us, people who are like-minded, people who share our core values, like my daughter, but never had a way to be a part of us. Now she does. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of young adults, middle-aged adults, and older people in North America, maybe even millions, who we simply need to show up where they are and no longer think that they're going to find us where we are because they're not even looking where we are. If you haven't seen the video, I would encourage your club. It's a 2-minute video from Rotary. It's called Anytown. If you haven't seen the video Anytown, I encourage you to show it at an upcoming club meeting because it talks about why more ways to access us, different ways to access us, more clubs in any community is important, not just important, it's vital for us. And I'm going to suggest to you that even if you have 4 clubs in Gainesville, you could probably have 8. And some of you are going to say, oh, it'll cannibalize my club. You know, this club, the Rotary Club of Gainesville that meets at lunch on Tuesday, if we start another club somewhere, it's going to cannibalize our club. And I'm going to tell you that's hogwash. We've done a 5-year study of all new clubs in the world. And the fact is that 88% of people that join new clubs are new to Rotary. 88% of people that join new innovative methods to access us are new to Rotary. Only 12% of them are existing Rotarians, and some of them may come from the existing club in that community, but they were going to leave Rotary anyway if it weren't for that new club. The biggest adversary that we have to new models and methods of access to us, new innovative club models in any community, is the existing club in that community. And we've got to stop that. The data shows it's not going to hurt you. A rising tide raises all ships. And so thank you for all that you do. And thank you for helping us as we go forward to grow Rotary and the Gainesville community. And growing Rotary is not just members. It's growing public awareness, growing public understanding, it's growing members, and it's growing the Rotary Foundation. All of that helps us to be a stronger organization. And unlike Kiwanis and Lions and Optimus, all great service organizations who have suffered far greater losses than us, we do not have to go down that path. And that's up to us. That's up to each of us to make sure that Rotary is vital and relevant in North America 10, 20, 30 years from now. We have a great 115-year history, but that history, we cannot rest on those laurels. Some of you may have read a book by Michael McQueen. Michael's written a couple of books. He wrote one about relevance, and he has a thing called the relevance curve. And he says that every organization, every business, every relationship has a climb up on the relevance curve, and they get to the top of the relevance curve. And if they don't do something to stay there, they start to go down the other side of the relevance curve. And if they don't recognize that they're going down the other side, they get to a point of no return. So what are some examples of that? If I ask you, I can see the group in Cade Museum. Raise your hand if you've ever rented a video from Blockbuster Video. Raise your hand. At the Cade Museum. I see a lot of hands. Raise your hand if you rented one yesterday. Yeah, no hands. I mean, Blockbuster got to the downside of the relevance curve. In the year 2000, they had an opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million. They declined. They decided that they would rather compete with Netflix. That didn't work out too well for Blockbuster, and I think Netflix is now worth something like $6 billion. The fact is, Blockbuster lost track of where they were on the relevance curve. And there's only one Blockbuster store left in the world, and that's in Bend, Oregon. And it's almost kind of like a museum. It's a store in a museum. Think about Kodak. How many of you at the Cade Museum, raise your hand if you ever bought a yellow box of Kodak film? Raise your hand at the Cade Museum. See a lot of hands. Raise your hand if you bought one of those boxes of film yesterday. And there are no hands. Kodak lost track of where they were on the relevance curve. They thought that they were in the film business. They didn't recognize that they were in the memories business, and digital photography allowed for the capturing of memories more quickly with immediate gratification. Kodak had the opportunity to get into that business, and they declined. And if you go to Rochester, New York any day in the future, you'll see how that worked out for Kodak. And there are many, many examples of organizations or businesses like that that lost track of where they were on the relevance curve. I'm going to tell you that Rotary as an organization has reached the top of the relevance curve, and we are now slowly on our way down the other side. It's up to us to turn that around. It's up to us to take action. It's up to us to make sure that we stay relevant. And that means that we need more hands on deck, that we need to be more innovative, more adaptive. The hierarchy and the structure that we have for our organization was developed in the 1950s, when if I wanted to communicate with Dalton Birch or John Cousins or Cynthia Miller or any of the others on this call, I had to write them a letter, which took 3 or 4 days to get there, and then they had to write me back. Times have changed. We have not. We have certainly evolved somewhat, but we need to evolve more quickly. Excuse me. We need to be more innovative, more adaptive, so that we can stay relevant as the time goes forward. Thriving, not just surviving. And some of you will say, well, why? I mean, look, we're here at the Gainesville Club. We love the Cade Museum. We've got a great group. We all like each other. If you haven't noticed, there are a lot of problems in the world. And our organization is built for that. We're built to help some of the most disadvantaged people in your community and on the planet. And those problems are not getting smaller. They're getting larger. And our Rotary Foundation is strapped. The World Fund is challenged. There are lots of global grant requests coming in. And all of that is good. But in order to help the people that need us the most, we need more hands on deck. That's why we need to grow Rotary, so that we can help more people, because that's what we're built to do. Excuse me, allergy season up here in Philadelphia. Right now, as we sit here, in your community and around the world, there are millions and millions of children and families who are standing at the edge of all of the light that they know. And they are peering out into the darkness. And they have exhausted every avenue of help, every avenue of hope. And for many of them, you are their last avenue of help. You are their last hope. And that's why we need to grow Rotary. We need to help more people. We're the ones that can shine a light into their darkness. We're the ones that can be their last avenue of help or last avenue of hope with all the projects that we do. The world needs us now more than ever. In the Gainesville community, in every community across the US and across Canada and in North America, if we're not careful, we will no longer be relevant. And I would hate for my kids to be walking down the street of our town one day and have somebody say to them, you know, whatever happened to Rotary? Wasn't your dad involved with Rotary? Whatever happened to that organization? Where did they go? I don't ever want to have them have that question asked or have to answer it. It's up to each of us, and it's up to all of us to keep Rotary relevant in North America, to keep Rotary relevant in Florida and in your community, to keep Rotary relevant so that we can help more people solve more problems, because most of the programs that we do get at the root cause of terrorism, poverty, illiteracy, hunger, water. That's why we need to thrive, not just survive. So I'm going to stop there for a moment, ask if there are any questions that I can help you to answer. Thank you again for all that you do for our organization, for your commitment to Rotary, to our action plan, and to helping your community and people around the world.
If anyone here at the Cade Museum has a question for our speaker today, Jeffrey, please raise your hand, and Don Bugos will make his way towards you. We have one hand already raised in the air. If you're online watching via Zoom, type your questions into chat, and we'll address them to Jeffrey. Go ahead. State your name and your question, please.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Jacob Atem. I have a couple questions. One, to start with polio. Congratulations, we have 2 countries. My question with polio, what is difficult is a lot of displacement. When there's a war, it is so difficult to contain polio. So what are we doing with that? Now there are 2 countries to make sure we have access to eradicate this virus. That's one question. A second question is related.
Well, let me take that one first because you're giving my memory way too much credit. So let me take that one first.
Go ahead.
We've been struggling for over a decade in Pakistan and Afghanistan with all of the challenges there, polio volunteers being killed, all of the misinformation about what the polio vaccine actually is. But obviously, and it's not just Rotary, it's our partner organizations, it's the International Polio Plus Committee, WHO, UNICEF, all of our partner organizations involved in this effort obviously have been making headway in spite of the displacement, in spite of the political unrest in those regions and in other regions. And we had some of the same issues in Africa. So all I can do is assure you that there are people at the international level. Mike McGovern from Maine, USA, is the chairman of the International Polio Plus Committee, and they are constantly monitoring where in the world we need to be and where we need to up something because something happened. But no doubt Pakistan and Afghanistan are a challenge. And in spite of that, we're getting there. So that's the answer to that question. What's your next question? You're only allowed, if you have 3 questions, you have to pay $100 to the Rotary Foundation.
Oh, I might give it to somebody right now. Okay. So my final 2 questions is, one, if you have a new country where there is no presence of Rotary Club, what is the process to start a international Rotary Club in that country? And the final one, and I promise I'm going to sit down, is regard to COVID-19 vaccine. Your last speech was saying we are the one that people has hope in it. We are very fortunate to be in the U.S. I am vaccinated, and I'm pretty sure quite a bit of people are. So is it possible for Rotary International to take the same fight that we had with polio and strategize with COVID-19 vaccine, particularly in the low-income countries where they don't have access?
All right. I already forgot your second question, and you're going to have to sit down now. Somebody grab the microphone away from him. I'm joking. I hope you know I'm joking. Relative to COVID, 2 battles, 2 different wars. We can't lose sight of polio while we're taking a look at COVID. I'm going to tell you that Rotary clubs, districts around the world are helping with the fight in COVID. COVID has benefited from the infrastructure, not only the cold chain, but the infrastructure, the public health infrastructure that has been developed because of the polio vaccine. COVID has taken advantage of that. Rotary, though, cannot be the immunizer of the world for COVID. We can help with that on the district level, on a club level. We can help with that in India. We've sent a lot of oxygen through Rotary clubs to India. So there are a lot of ways that we can help on the ground. But I'm going to tell you that Rotary International as an organization cannot become the COVID immunizer of the world. It's 2 different battles, 2 different wars. We need to focus on polio and not lose sight of that, take advantage of the public health infrastructure from polio for COVID, and then on the ground in our communities around the world, take advantage of what we can do to help there. And there are a lot of ways that we can help without just the vaccine, with public health initiatives and the like. I've already forgotten what your second question was. If somebody can help me with that. Oh, I think it had to do with a country that doesn't have a Rotary club. People ask us all the time, what about Rotary in China? What about Rotary in Vietnam? We do not go into a country that does not allow us to be there. We will only go into a country and start a Rotary club where the government is supportive of that effort. That is not true in Vietnam right now yet. We're working on it. It's not true in China, and it's not true in other countries or regions around the world. But I hope that helps to answer your question. We don't go unless the government has agreed to allow us to be there. In China, by the way, there are some Rotary clubs, but you're only allowed to be a Rotarian in China if you're an expat, if you're not a Chinese resident. I would imagine someday we'll break through that and we'll have Rotary in China and maybe hopefully in Vietnam and other parts of the world also. And I see something, Jeffrey, it's fairly complicated to get a new club going. Is RI looking at making it easier so we can reduce the burden on those people who are keen to start a club? Yes, 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 yes. As chair of the communications committee, I meet regularly with the chair of the membership committee and the staff of the membership committee, because communications and membership, we kind of can help each other. We are constantly trying to look at ways to streamline without compromising quality, but to make it easier. And I believe it is, by the way. I believe that there's a certain misrepresentation that starting a new Rotary club is like sticking a hot fork in your eye. It's not that way anymore, but I do get that it used to be that way. But we are constantly looking at ways to make it easier to get a club up and going, and then support that club or that entity. Some people don't like to be called clubs anymore, by the way, in certain parts of the Rotary world, one of those being North America. Maybe it should just be Rotary Gainesville and not the Rotary Club of Gainesville. I mean, there's always something coming through the Council on Legislation to promote that. But yes, we're always looking at ways to make it easier to start a Rotary club. Now that Rotaracts are considered Rotarians, has this increased the overall total of Rotarians? Rotaractors, let's be clear on this. What we did at the COL when we elevated Rotaract is that we allowed them, Rotaract clubs, Rotaract groups, to become members of our international association, just like the Gainesville Club is. So Rotaract clubs have been elevated so that they're now a part of Rotary International. That doesn't make every Rotaractor a Rotarian. And it doesn't mean that every Rotaractor should be a Rotarian. In different cultures of the world, Southeast Asia, for instance, it's really hard from a cultural standpoint to become a Rotarian at the age of 21 or 22 or 23. And Rotaract is very strong in those areas because that's the only way that you can be involved with our organization. And then you age out of Rotaract and you come into Rotary. For people, and I've heard people say this, we ought to make every Rotaract club a Rotary club. Wrong. And talk to them. They don't want to be a Rotary club. They want to be a Rotaract club. They like what they do and they like how they do it. And so we should help them to do that. We should partner with them. If you've got Rotaract clubs in your community, I hope that you do fundraising together. I hope that you do service projects together. If you have a district conference, I hope that there are Rotaractors on the planning team. But to me, it's not correct to say that every Rotaractor should be a Rotarian. They don't necessarily want to be, and in some places they can't be. I spoke at a club yesterday somewhere. I think it was in Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania. And they had like 11 new members in the past 4 months, and 4 of them were in their 20s. Now that's great. I mean, I joined Rotary when I was 27. I never went through Rotaract, but we've got one of the best pipelines in the world. From Interact to Rotaract to Rotary, we've got one of the best pipelines in the world. We need to take better advantage of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, how about a nice round of applause for Jeffrey?
All right, thank you.
Jeffrey, so sorry to cut short right there at the end. You know, the 1 o'clock bell is ringing, and thank you so much for your time. I had the speaker gift. I was sitting here thinking how I'm going to, Mr. Rotary that you are, excite you over a coin, and I'm going to call an audible and a play from past President Chad King's playbook here. And as a club, we're going to make a donation for 100 polio vaccinations in your name. And thank you for your time today. What a great presentation. What candid, very direct things we should consider as Rotarians, as a club. And thank you for that message. Great meeting. Let's have a great week. We'll come back next week and hear from RILA students that'll be going virtual RILA this weekend, which is always great to hear. As we talked about today, these are hopefully future Rotarians that can make an impact in Rotary and our community. And before we adjourn, quote of the day, always give 100% unless you're donating blood. Bill Murray. Have a great week, fellow Rotarians.